Gimme Daddy.
Hello everyone, this is Emmond with Gamey Daddy and I'm here with another video from Tom Clancy's The Division. So today I'm here to bring you a video on how I build for legendary missions. Now I'm going to teach you what I do and I'm going to show you guys in case some of you are having some kind of I don't know, I think there's some misconception about certain things that are going on right now with the new meta, and I'm going to provide a paradigm so that I can see if I can explain or bridge the gap between people who were playing this game before or people who are new to this game. Now, for those of us who played before, it was pretty much a different time. You know, you could spec into every stat and maintain a balanced build where you could have enough DPS, enough toughness, and enough electronics to be able to get that overheal easily if you played the game back in the day. But now they've started to reduce the potential of what skills can do, and this has pretty much been a big deal lately. So what I wanted to say is a lot of people haven't realized this, but regardless of what you may think, the game has come to the place where it is now becoming more of an RPG game than it was. Before, you could solo everything. Now you still can if you have the skill, but there is a lot that you're going to give up on when you're doing that, or you have to really fine-tune your gear to fit a specific playstyle. And for a lot of new players, that's actually a challenge, because there's almost no, let me say, context on what to do and how to do it very well. So that being said, let me tell you what's going on. You have to play a specific role when it comes to the new missions that have been put out. The legendary missions and the incursions on heroic require you to play a specific role. Now, I know Falcon Lost, we've been playing that with all kinds of different gear sets, and it's quite more forgiving than the other incursions. Dragon's Nest, you can in fact, the other day I was playing and somebody showed me how to just stay in one particular spot that makes the mission fun. I'm not gonna say much before they go nerf it. Now, the Stolen Signal incursion is actually a pain. That's giving people a lot of trouble, and so thinking about that is one thing that I can say that is a challenge. And also, Clear Sky is also a big problem for a lot of people. For me, it is. I've always never really liked it, so going into it and not being able to even move that box from one spot to the other is just a big problem. If there's anybody out there that's going to be willing to help me with Clear Sky, that'd be nice. I would appreciate it so much. I mean, I really want to, I want somebody to do a video that's helpful for the community, and if somebody can show me exactly how to do it, I'll be willing to throw out a video that can help people that want to do it. So let's move on to what my agenda is right now, and that's to show you guys how I build for DPS. Now, many of you may wonder, like, what's going on? I'm a DPS player, so I will roll firearms on every single aspect of my gear because I am a DPS player and I'm playing legendary, and mostly in legendary I'm going to be doing most of my damage from distance. Usually I try not to be even 10 meters from these NPCs because they are really strong. They'll run up on you and body you. That's what they do. They have that strategy programmed into them, and when they body you, you're going down. It doesn't matter what your toughness is, except you're with a ballistic shield and they body you multiple times, but they're very, very strong. So what I want to do is I want to actually roll as much firearms as I'm comfortable with. Now, sometimes if you roll firearms and you don't have enough stamina, there are a lot of talents that you can unlock, that you can enjoy. And funny enough, those talents are very, very good. Like, you can enjoy destructive, you can enjoy unforgiving. If you want to use an assault rifle that has unforgiving requires you to have, I think, 4790. Do I have a weapon with unforgiving here? I don't think I have a weapon with unforgiving. You can enjoy responsive with even such a low stamina anyways, even though it needs more firearms. Do I have if I have unforgiving, I'll show you guys. I think unforgiving requires you to have about 4790 stamina, because it's a stamina based kind of thing, where if your health is low, you're getting damage. But if you were to, it's a way the developers have designed it. If with this stamina, if somebody sneezed on you, you'll be able to get easy 2 health bars gone and get the extra 25% damage. So rolling everything into firearms may not necessarily be the case, and so it will be nice to get a little bit of stamina and unlock things like self-preserved, which is another sustainable or talent that's there for sustainability, where if you crit, it heals you 3% of the damage that you've dealt. Now this is just a shotgun that I put on for situation. We're trying to take down a boss and I needed the stagger so that you know Widow in the Napalm production site, she keeps healing herself, so I put on some stagger and just kept hitting her while shooting at her while my other teammates were able to take her down, because she would run to a corner and go heal, and you don't want that to happen. So sometimes it's, you know, adapting to the strategies where it's at. Okay, so that being said, 8,000 firearms is the nice place to go to be able to unlock brutal. Well, brutal needs 4790 firearms, nothing else, but destructive needs a certain amount of toughness, which is a respectable amount. You know, it's almost there at 4,000, so you can't ignore it. Now I'll show you the gear that I'm wearing and then we'll just move on from there. So reckless, 8% damage. Even though I'm taking an extra 10% damage, it's worth it for me. I'm a DPS player. That way, the amount of firearms that I get to forfeit, I can at least leverage some of it from here, because that's a lot of firearms to forfeit. Now I'm using the Skulls MC glove in this particular build, and it gives me 16% damage when no gear set bonuses are active. So pretty much it's encouraging use of the high-end materials. I'm telling you, these gloves, they brought all the high-ends and exotic gear back to life. They breathe some diversity into DPS. Now granted, this game has a lot of DPS in it, and the reverse is also, it has a lot of skill-based play in the way that you can actually diversify, even though the DPS meta is actually what rocks right now. But there is nothing wrong with that, because in the incursions and the very, you know, on some of the places, it requires just more than DPS. You can't DPS your way through Stolen Signal. You need somebody to keep everybody alive. You need a shield build. You know, you need people to switch gear back and forth in certain instances. So I'm thinking that's a very ingenious way to actually put the game right now. I'm using this mask. It's called Refreshed. All healing is improved by 30% when in the last health segment. Now the reason I was using this mask is because I was trying to test it out to see how it really works. The Division player Mate, the guy that does all the solo missions and stuff, he used this mask in his high-end build and it worked out very well for him, but he ran those missions solo, so I can see how you're gonna need healing. He even used a rapid chest piece, which is quite different from what I'm doing right now. You don't want to use reckless when you're running solo, because if you get hit, you're most likely going to, you're most likely going to take too much damage. That's not good for you. Now a reverse that you can do, what you can do if you don't want to use this, is you can use Tenacious. Tenacious gives you 10% damage every time you use a med kit, I think for about 10 seconds. So when you pop a med kit, you know, you have 10% extra damage. If you think about it, you have to really think about the gameplay and the playstyle to use that. So 8%, a possible extra 10% in some certain scenarios, 16%. I mean, do you see where I'm going? So 26 plus 8 is putting us at 34% extra raw damage, even though the 10% here is just situational. That shows you the possibilities that you can actually, how much possibility of a DPS build you can get going. Now let's not even discuss how much enemy armor damage you can roll on your chest piece, how much enemy armor damage you can roll on your mask, how much enemy armor damage you can roll on your knee pads, how much critical hit damage you can roll on your backpack. You can roll crit damage on your backpack. Let me see, I have one that's got crit damage. Yeah, you can roll crit damage on a backpack. You can also roll crit damage on your chest, on your knee pads, in place of enemy armor damage. Now let's not even discuss or even try to factor in the 11%, I think, is the maximum damage to elites that you can roll if you're facing elite enemies. So if you're playing incursions as well, elite enemies are pretty much, you know, the entire, you know, enemy types you're going to be dealing with. And also on your knee pads, you can get enemy damage to elites, but these knee pads don't have it. I have a pair of knee pads. See, you can get up to 14% damage to elites. Now even on your gloves, you can get all kinds of damage, you know, let me say attributes, and this is pretty much where one of the areas where it actually lies. Now these skull gloves were one of those gloves that I'm just really happy to have. You know, rolled a decent amount of stamina, putting me at the right place to get destructive going. I have 4% health on kill, marksman rifle damage, and critical hit damage. I like the health on kill. It really works because, you know, if I'm looking for a chest piece, I'm looking for crit damage and health on kill. So this skill haste is going to go. It has to go. I can't help the fact that it has to go, but hey, I want the enemy armor damage and I want the health on kill. It's what I prefer. And I'm using a nimble holster to be able to run cover to cover and heal. Now the developers are talking about taking a look at this. I don't think they need to look at nimble. Nimble is actually very well balanced. There is nothing wrong with it. In fact, if there's anything they need to look at, is fine-tuning the fix that they have for the heal bugs, because if you know, this is one holster that you short yourself of, that, you know, like almost everybody runs nimble these days. So that's one extra item that you could have run, but you had to run nimble. So think about every high-end gear as opportunity cost, or what we call scale of preference. You know, you have to pick what's more important to you, and the opportunity cost is you're going to have to run this nimble holster in place of something else that you could have run in you know, that would have benefited you in a different way. Like, I would have preferred, if I was running, like when I run my Sentry Striker builds, I sometimes will run nimble, or I'll run 2 nomads. Now whenever I run 4 of an item nimble, I would like to run a short bow knee pads, because I have a pair of short bow knee pads, so I can get that grenade stuff. But because of nimble, I'm going to have to, you know, use nimble and maybe use a Barrett's chest piece because I want some, you know. So it's kind of a win-win. It's a real win-win. And, you know, 2% of your max health for every 1 meter. I mean, you're running away. You're not even doing any damage. So you're retreating. So I feel like this is very good if you're using nimble. So that's just my take. I actually tweeted some of the guys that play the division and all, and, you know, I feel like they're in agreement as well that nimble is in the right spot, except for maybe like a delay or something like that. Okay. So rolling 8,000 firearms, a decent amount of stamina to unlock talents like destructive. Let me even look at prepared. I'm thinking prepared. Okay, prepared is full on firearms. There are also some talents that are very good, that, like, if you want to run vicious with an SMG build and you want to be full on damage as well. Now I don't know, SMG, if you're going to be doing too much of that in the legendary incursions. Responsive doesn't need too much stamina, so you can get away with responsive. But, you know, self-preserved and unforgiving are 2 of those kind of talents that really do require for you to get a decent amount of stamina, and they're very good. Now my weapons, let me discuss weapons with you guys. I'm looking at I have an M700 Carbon. It does a lot of damage. It's got a decent amount of accuracy. Let me compare it with like another marksman rifle here. Okay, now this is the M700 Carbon. I think it's, from what I see, its accuracy is better than the SRS A1. And its base damage usually is better than the SRS A1 as well. Now, the headshot damage is also a factor, but that's something that you can do without. If you have high base damage, low headshot damage, you can do with. Now, if you can't even get your hands on a good M700 Carbon, pay attention for when an SRS A1 drops. Because honestly, I have decent M700 Carbons with good headshot damage and good base damage, but I cannot get the combination of talents that I want. So I have to make do with things like Toxic. Toxic is good. I actually do like Toxic on my marksman rifle, and Prepared is very good as well. I like it, but honestly, and Elevated comes with every single M700 Carbon. If you're 1.2 meters above ground, you get 10% extra damage. It's very good, but some situations you can't be 1.2 meters above your target, especially if you think about how the legendary missions are. It's gonna be, you know, you can't position yourself in place to get the damage every time. But if you look at this SRS A1 that dropped for me, I was able to get everything I want on an M700 Carbon easily. I have Prepared, I have Brutal, and I have Destructive. So that's crazy. Now I have to mathematically sit down with both of them and say, okay, which is going to benefit me more? But from the numbers that I'm looking at right now, guys, I mean, look at the numbers. This has got 1 RPM more than this. This has got, you know, more headshot damage than this. I mean, and these are the 2 that have rolled for me. Actually, this one has low headshot damage. It's got Prepared, Cool-Headed, and Balanced. But I'm not going to use this yet. I'm leaving it because of Cool-Headed. I might take off Balance, but Balance is actually very, very good for, you know, especially a marksman rifle like this that has less accuracy. And if I'm looking at this one, I'm looking at Prepared, which gives me 15% damage when I'm, you know, far away. This one's got Prepared. This one's got Brutal, which kind of makes up for this headshot damage already. So I have to sit down and compare. And then it's got Destructive. So that's just an armor destruction value. So that won't even apply for all NPCs. So this is you thinking about opportunity costs and you know, what is it going to, how am I going to factor it in? And then there's another thing you can't even override, and that's testing. So now, you know, I'm standing in the firing range and I'm going to test both of them to see, you know, which one is actually better. And honestly, I tested them on the battlefield, and the accuracy of the SRS-A1, if you look at the SRS-A1, see how much long it takes for me to get my accuracy. Now let's switch to the M700 Carbon. They almost have the same shouldering accuracy, but let's fire. I don't know if that's 30 meters. And I modded them together, so I'm hitting about 550,000 headshot damage because of prepared and all that good stuff. And I'm not even factoring determined in there. This is 600k straight up. Yeah. So with the headshot damage, and I don't know if prepared is factoring. I don't know if that's even 30 meters, but that feels like 30 meters to me. So yeah, already I'm seeing there's a damage difference in just, you know, what I'm doing. This is 530. This is 478,000. So if you find an SRS-A1, this is not to say, oh, the M700 Carbon is better, so you must get the M700 Carbon. No, this is to say, if you can't get your hands on an M700 Carbon, then definitely you can get yourself, you know, an SRS-A1, and this is going to do pretty much a good job, pending when you can get a drop for an M700 Carbon. So don't feel like, you know, you need to have the best of the best stuff. A min-max build is a build that eventually progresses to be what it becomes. Anybody that shows you a build on the first day as like, oh yeah, all of this awesome stuff together, had to farm for it. There's no way that they just woke up and it appeared in their cache, in their stash. That doesn't happen. They sit there and farm and test and try, and you know, and ignore the DPS numbers, by the way. They're not a representation of what's going on, you know, truly. There's some of them are inflationary and all that good stuff. So I use one marksman rifle, and then I use an assault rifle. This is just for burst damage. I use the enemy armor damage pretty much, and I pair it with destructive as well, and all the enemy armor damage that I have on my gear. This one's got intense. Intense is for that surprise burn. Sometimes it's nice to have that when you hit the target, the first bullet in the magazine, you know, lights them on fire. And then brutal, you know, headshot damage. Sometimes I hit headshot damage, you know, with this, especially when I'm playing on PC. Using the mouse gives me a little more accuracy. And then I'll run my shotgun just for that stagger. That's pretty much what it's for. It doesn't do half as much the damage that I can put out with my marksman rifle if I land a headshot. So that's pretty much my gear. You know, firearm stats, if you look, I don't have any extra stats in here. Everything is just rolled to firearms and health, so maybe giving me a little bit of toughness. Some of them are just regular firearm stats that I have, but some of, I think they're all health. Let me see, let me make sure I satisfy your curiosity. Health. This one's got EDR because it's the one I could find, and then this one's got health. So this is not even a fine-tuned build. This is just what it is. And then for my performance mods, what I'm trying to experiment with is first aid self-heal, to see how much I can buff my self-heal. But with my skill power, it's so low, I don't think it's gonna do too much. So that's pretty much my spew, guys. That's pretty much my guide on how I build for legendary missions, and in the context of using a high-end build. I'm going to show you guys the context of using Sentry as a marksman build as well. That's one of my other preferred builds. In fact, I almost prefer Sentry to this, but I can be objective because on that build, the marksman rifle that I use there is actually slightly better than this marksman rifle. So there is a damage difference. That one, Sentry, you have to land about 3 shots for you to hit like 1 million. This one, if they're pulsed and you land a good head critical hit shot, you can get 1 million cold. So they're 2 good sets, and I run them on different characters because I don't want to have to switch stuff left and right. This is just there to go when I'm trying to get into a legendary mission and I'm trying to play DPS. So if you like this video, please make sure you click that subscribe button. Don't hesitate. Leave a comment. Just leave, you know, comments on how you build as well with things like this, and let me know what you guys are thinking so far about the game and the new meta. I appreciate you guys for listening and watching. Thank you once again, and peace.